Good morning, Gatehouse of Fleet. How are you? You all doing well? Did you get your bacon butties?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. That's why you came here, wasn't it? It's an honour and a privilege and a total pleasure to be here. I was saying, I actually came here to work on a catering course when I left school at 16, so this was like back in the 70s. And I had went to school in Newton Stewart, and they brought 10 16-year-olds up here, and we stayed in a flat somewhere to do a catering course, and there was many an occasion we actually nearly got sacked for our shenanigans. And it's like, well, we're acting our age, you know, what did you expect? So that's the first time I've ever been back here in Gatehouse of Fleet. Just look at this down. So here we are. When Linda asked me to be part of Wanderlust Women, she says, have you got 25 poems about travel? And it was like, no. And she says, well, can you write 25 poems about travel? And I was like, I'll need to think about it. Because I was like this, I've got to be in the mood to do a poem. I've got to get into this space, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And then I thought, you fucking need to just sit down and do some poems. So I was doing like 3 and 4 poems at a time. And I'm so glad that I did this, because there was one point I was like, I can't do it, but I did. And it's just to be part of this is absolutely amazing as well. So the first poem that I'm going to read is, I was in India in 2000, and I was doing backpacking with a friend, and we were going on these crazy train journeys, like to last 42 hours at a time, the journey. It was absolutely crazy, but it was like one of the best times. It was life affirming being in India, like backpacking. So this is called Mumbai to Varanasi. Although I didn't understand the language, his gesticulations were clear. A flurry of hands invited me to share the little space he had with him and his toddler son. I thought he was being polite, and I thanked him profusely while declining his generous offer, until both he and his wife insisted I climb up to the narrow shelf, a scant padding of sorts, and still my body for the journey ahead. We lay top to toe, the toddler in the middle, his small breath scented with juicy ripe mango condensed in my cheek, and the darkest eyes scanned the lines of my face till sleep took him over. I drifted off to the sound of his father's light snoring, the tilt of the train, the whisper of voices and a smatter of rain hitting dirty windows. I didn't know until then how strangers can fold effortlessly into each other, how a slither of time can become a defining moment in one's life, and the twining of limbs with no sexual gender at play is not only possible, but one of the best feelings in the world. Thank you. So that just was an amazing journey, and we were sleeping literally. It was about that, and the dad was down there, and my feet, it was like top to toe, and this wee child in the middle. The next poem I'm going to read is it's called Looking for Jessica. My father didn't see his mother from he was taken away from his mother when he was 5 years old, and she'd had an affair with an American soldier. So back then, women, you know, they wouldn't get to keep their children, so he was taken away. And it was like Jessica was always there running through our lives. And my sister and my daughter and I wanted to find Jessica. And my daughter did a bit of detective work and found out that she was in West Virginia. She'd died, but her burial place was there. So we did a road trip to find Jessica, and we went all different places and that. But in West Virginia, there's no cemeteries or anything like that. They bury people in fields and a lot of spaces in their gardens, so it was quite interesting trying to find Jessica. So this is called Looking for Jessica. We found Jessica laid to rest in a family plot at the top of a field, tall with Johnson grass and blood-red poppies as high as the knee. In West Virginia, there are no burial grounds as such. People live with their dead, allot space in gardens lest they forget who is where. We'd gone from house to house, felt the twitch of curtains as we knocked politely indoors. We must have looked odd in our frothy dresses and sandals with no toes. And it seemed our search was in vain till we came across a man and his boys, covered in grease and muck, repairing a truck in the forecourt of their garage. My daughter, sister and I followed the man up the field. Rough grass irritated our bare legs, grit infiltrated strappy sandals. We made what the fuck faces as we tried to keep up. Tickled pink on danger, the absurdity of it all. Following a stranger with a machete gripped in his hand, a handgun cushy in his jeans back pocket, the weight of metal pulling and cloth and irritation, but all the while alert to any movement of a venomous copperhead snake. Our grandmother's memory had gouged a rent in the fabric of family life. She was the musty monster chained under the bed, the flustered ghost trapping at the door of a 5-year-old's uncompromising dreams. She was my father's echo, reverberating throughout the years, the kicking and screaming as they took him away, because she'd lain with an American soldier. We found Jess, in a small metal plaque of sun-washed grey. A flutter of angels with dirty faces embraced her name, and the pain of her father was laid to rest, with a speckled pebble brought from his favourite fishing spot on the banks of Loch Lomond. We placed it quietly on Jessica's grave. The man gifted us her plaque. Thank you. So anyway, I used to dance in a cage in Ibiza. I did it for about a week, and it was as you do. I'd went over there like with my boyfriend at the time, and we went to a club, and I wasn't a bad dancer back then. So the manager had asked me, says, "Would you come and like dance?" And it was a cage, and I'll give you all the drink that you want. There wasn't really any decent drugs around that time, but you go to Ibiza now and it's a bit mental. This was the late 70s. So this is, what's it called again? Back in the day. Long before Ibiza became a frenzy of parties, bursting at seams and costing the earth, I danced in a gilded cage in a small club up a tangled riddle of ancient streets, where alleys led to nowhere and stairs opened to cavernous grottos teeming with exotic fish. In my teens I was gallus as fuck. A child who'd newly discovered her mother's makeup, a pally of blue eyeshadow creased my lids, a slash of crimson coloured my lips. I danced till the sun came up and the tide went out, on this island flush with youth and the promise of a million tomorrows. I cut my teeth on the dance floor. Thank you. I had a great time there. It was fantastic. I've got a friend called Jenny. No, she's not called Jenny, she's called Genie. And she loves fast cars, so she does. And she had a car, but she kept telling me about this BMW convertible that was sitting in a garage for sale, and she kept saying, "Oh Donna, I want it. So one day I got a photograph. She sent me through a photograph, and it was her in a scarf in this BMW, and she'd got the car. So I went out to meet her. So this is called Day Out with a Friend. Janie met me off the train in a new metallic blue BMW convertible. We sped off our swanky like along the Ayrshire coast, with the wind faffing her hair while taking the heat of the sun off our faces. And we looked the part, donning Gucci sunglasses, got up to the back of a van, loaded to the gunnels with whatever a heart could desire. We were on fire. Two women the other side of 60, who'd known each other over 25 years. I was Thelma to Janie's Louise, and life couldn't have got any better. That's always for Genie. So this is my first ever collection. So proud actually and humbled to get this this published. And what I'm going to do, I don't know if MD's ever went through a period of like really serious loneliness when it's just, that's what like loneliness is, like a beast and you're inside the belly of this beast. So this is called The Loneliness of the Long Distance Artist. It's I was dark at this time of night. It's I was dark at this time of night. Sitting shyly behind curtains, shadows wait forlornly to catch his movement, hitch a ride in the nape of his neck, in the small tenement flat where he takes men friends home for tea, letting them outside in the evening, to the sound of trains floating by and with dismembered memories of sleeping with friends, send shivers down the spine of a wombless moon, a wombless moon, a wombless moon, who takes leave of its senses when full and endorsed his shine as though it were its own. The first time he dipped his hands into art, the sight of its blood fascinated him. Hot chocolate spilling over cushions, mocked the bird, nailed by the wind, frames a centrepiece at the lip of his mouth. Rumour has it he sleeps by day and by night gets painfully drunk in absurdity, naming loneliness as a prerequisite to madness, and masturbation a quiet flick of the wrist, done in time to the loud tick of clocks, spelling millions of would-be babies. 'Cause it's I was dark at this time of night, it's where shadows wait. Thank you. 2 seconds. So we'll do 2 more. One is the title book, and it's called Mongraal. She was a big lass, 10-foot tall with a muckle of brawn that stole the stare when she walked in the room. The loon loved her. They mimicked her gait when the back was turned, but spoke out politely to her face. Feared she'd knock them into place, sprawled on the deck beneath the boulders her feet she rested on. She'd been a big bear and she'd ripped her away out her scrawny ma's belly while the dad sat at home watching the telly, a wee multi-tram at his side, waiting for news to come. Years later, the boy argued the toss, but which side the family she came to? Swear it was the Irishman that ran with the boats out to the back of beyond, the cheek to come home with an Amazon blonde, snared in the sticks of Puerto Rico. Hey, this lass did well at school, especially at rugby. She fought in the field, the tank of her frame hard to keel over, and the look in her face guy hard to pass by. I seemed radiant and housed the biggest smile ever smiled in the Western Hemisphere. Thank you. So I just thought, just for a bit of fun, and it's like, it's breakfast time, the weekend's nearly here. A few years ago I took a vow of celibacy. And it wasn't I was selling a bit, I was like celibacy. And but I could not stop thinking very erotic thoughts. And it was like a few years ago when I was at uni and was doing like sociology, so you got all different subjects, and one of the subjects was economics, and but the economics lecturer was an Italian man, and he was like, oh my god, so his lectures were always busy. So I penned this little poem for the Italian lecturer. I watch you lecture. Stand atop your pedestal with students young and old, eagerly await your next exhale of breath. I feel swollen, wet between the imagining you and you and you and you and you going down on me in front of all you people. Thank you.